right, what's good? Thank you so much for tuning into the Church Dropout podcast. My name is Alan. I'm the host. Church Dropout is a podcast. We talk about issues, topics, and teachings related to faith, life, and culture in ways that are sometimes funny, sometimes serious, but always insightful. If you have not already, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. So today, I want to talk about something that I've been reflecting on for a while. Honestly, something that has been on my mind. Have been thinking about how to say it, but I think it's gotten clear over the past few days of reading what Christians are posting online concerning the poor and marginalized, and even how the poor and marginalized are being treated. In all honesty, the rationalization of Christians to not help the poor or the marginalized, to say the least, is crazy. I really don't understand it. All the intellectual vigor to avoid doing plainly what Jesus commands. And, it just really, to me, boils down to where Western Christianity is. There seems to be a really strong emphasis on the mind, on thinking clearly, defending the faith, right? Getting the truth right. And it's sometimes at the expense of the heart, right? The place where compassion, mercy, and action live, right? Now, I'm not anti-intellectual. I'm not anti-intellectual, but it seems like in the Western church, the Western church worships the mind and ignores the heart. It seems like the Western church worships the mind and ignores the heart, right? Jesus, sums up our calling as Christians in the world to love God with all of our heart, our soul, and our mind and strength. To love God with our heart, soul, mind, and strength. That's to love God with all of us, the whole being, right? The point isn't to rank these faculties, right? But to insist that love engages the whole person, right? Love engages the whole person, right? So if we're going to talk about truth and belief, we should also be talking about mercy and justice and how we treat the vulnerable. Like, those things are inseparable. And I feel like Western Christians have made it okay to think biblically, but not respond Christ-like. And I think this is getting bigger as Christianity in the West gets more politicized. Right. So there's three guiding questions I'm using kind of to navigate this tension. Right. So the first thing is like, what is the point of our intellectualism? Like, what is the aim of our thinking? Why are we pursuing truth? Right. When we pursue truth, we are seeking to understand and invite generosity. We're not building a fortress that shields us from discomfort. Right. It feels like our seeking truth is not to dialogue and open conversation or even convince others. It's really to make a statement, right? I was listening to a program the other day. I think it might have been Alyssa Childers. I don't know. I was listening to a program the other day, and they were talking about the state, what is that called? A belief statement. And, but the way they were talking about the belief statement was more so, indicating to people what we believe. And what it was doing, to be honest, was to weed people out. And so, I feel like the way that we've been utilizing and using, truth has been to build fortresses and to build walls, not to open up doors of conversation and transformation and hopefully expose others to the goodness of Jesus, right? And there's been a slip to me in apologetics. This is not everybody, but good apologetics should illuminate the beauty of the faith and invite conversation, not close us off from others, right? Thinking clearly should help us to love more wisely, not merely win arguments. I feel like Christians in the public square right now want to win the battle, but we're losing the war, right? We're fighting to be right. And that's problematic because I think we're looking at merely winning arguments and not moving us more wisely. The second thing is, how does our thinking connect to our walk or our action? How does our thinking connect to our action, right? If our belief system doesn't translate into care for the marginalized or the poor or brothers and sisters, then something is off, right? In fact, that's hypocritical, right? You're a modern day Pharisee if that's the case. Our doctrines should shape our character and mobilize us towards mercy, right? It should compel us, as the scripture says, the love of God should compel us, right? And so it should mobilize us toward feeding the hungry, right? Welcoming strangers, defending the oppressed, right? Truth that doesn't move us towards mercy is not truth. It is not truth in its fullest sense, right? So truth that does not move us towards justice, mercy, and compassion is not the truth in its fullest, right? It is not the true call of a Christian. It is not fulfilling the whole gospel. And I think this is where we're at right now, right? There is a more of a premium for Christians in Western culture in America to behave like a Christian and not be Christian, right? There is more emphasis placed on what we know rather than who we know, right? And this is where all of this biblical talk comes from, guys. This is where all this biblical thinking biblically, I get what people are trying to say, but knowing the Bible is not knowing Jesus. Knowing the Bible is not knowing Jesus, right? People study the Bible right now and know the Bible better than some Christians know it, but they're far from God. We're talking about people who don't even know the scriptures. But that doesn't mean people know Jesus, and that doesn't mean that you know Jesus or that I know Jesus, right? So knowing the scripture that is disconnected from how we behave is not truth. It's not living truthfully. It's not living out the truth because it doesn't move us toward what God would have us to do. And the last part is this, man. Like, I feel like, I'm reading online and there's these essays, these well thought out arguments. I don't know, probably AI, but these well thought out arguments of why we shouldn't engage in this way and why we shouldn't push the government to help or to meet the need of. And there's all these words that are being displayed and put out there. And it's like, you can tell that people are talking more than they're listening. They're not connected with people who are actually suffering. You can hear it and see it. They're disconnected, right? And there's not any intellectual humility in the Christian faith today, right? There's no intellectual humility, right? There's a lot we can learn, right, from people who think differently and from communities that we might not naturally stand with. But that door is consistently being closed, and these arguments are based on a certainty that's only from one perspective, and it's just a lot of talking and not a lot of listening, right? Listening keeps us from turning our theology into a weapon and keeps our hearts open to transformation. And I will tell you that theology today, and this is in the apologetics realm. Again, not everybody, but this is in the apologetics realm, in academia, and and again, I'm not an anti-intellectual. I'm not against loving God with our mind. I think that that's biblical. But what we're experiencing right now is the weaponization of our Christian faith, towards other communities. And it's not creating transformation. It's actually creating a forced type of worship, which really isn't worship at all. And when our faith gets weaponized, when we turn our theology into a weapon, our hearts are not open to transformation. And we can see that now. And so, I think we need to have some intellectual humility. Are we listening as much as we speak? Are the words that we're typing out that sound good to you, who are these words harming on the other side of that? How might this belief affect other, Christians? And I don't think we kind of think about that, especially in the Western, in our Western mind, we generally see the Bible from a Western perspective, but that Christianity does not fit all over the world, right? And this is where we've gone wrong with missionaries. We send missionaries to other places to teach them our gospel, not to teach them the gospel. We're teaching them Americanism mixed with the gospel, and that's not true Christianity. Not all, but some. So anyway, we need to listen as much as we speak. Listen, a balanced life isn't a retreat from hard questions. And I heard this on that same podcast I was listening to, or maybe a different one, I don't know, where they were kind of, making it seem as though those who want conversation or are pushing for conversation rather than just rather than just being bold, which seems to be the rage right now in Christianity, are retreating from the hard questions and are retreating from the gospel, backpedaling away from the gospel, and that's a problem, right? We should have a posture that demonstrates grace and truth together, right? That demonstrates these two things belong together, right? If you're holding grace without truth, it's problematic. If you're holding truth without grace, it's problematic, right? Intellectual rigor should illuminate the heart. Mercy should ground the mind, right? So what's happening is you have people who are getting more intellectual, right? And their intellectualism is causing them to retreat, right? And they are not in a place where mercy can ground them. You see what I'm saying? It's easy to talk from the ivory tower. It's easy to talk from a place of comfort and not struggle. It's easy when you're not on the other side of those SNAP benefits being taken away. It's easy to say the things that you're saying as a Christian when there's other Christians who are being harmed by what's happening with SNAP. There are Christians who are being harmed by that, who actually need help, right? And so if your heart is not grounded by mercy, and yet you have all of these beautiful arguments, then I don't know what to tell you. We can't just defend what isn't true. I mean, we can't just defend what's true. We need to defend also what's just and what's beautiful, and they flow from one another. But right now, I feel like we're stuck on intellectualism. So here's the deal. If you take one thing away from this video today, take this. I think as Christians, we need to think well. We need to think well. I think we need to be Christ-like more than biblical. Okay. I think we need to think well, but we also need to love deeply. We need to think well and love very deeply. Your thinking should be clear, principled, honest. Your love should be deep, fearless, practical, and inclusive. When you do both, you honor the whole gospel, the whole WHOLE gospel, the whole gospel. And you model a faith that neighbors actually want to follow. The Christianity that we have, on display today, is not a Christianity that people want to follow. And that should be concerning to all Christians. But instead we're deciding to take a stand. And I think that that's, a mistake, the way we're going about this. So anyway, in closing, again, I think Western Christianity, worships the mind and ignores the heart. And I think that needs to change. There's no way, in my opinion, that a Christian can be okay with the potential that people will go without because of debt. I mean, listen, there are funds that are being wasted by the government now on things that we're not even aware of, right? And so there's a greater good here. And the greater good is that, yes, some are taking advantage of some things, but there are people who really need it. The greater good is to feed those who need it. It's so interesting to me how the same argument that they use to support, individuals or policies is the same, is not being used here to support those who are in need. But again, we live in a binary culture. Our faith has been politicized. We're constantly being told to take a side, but we need to stand on Jesus. And we need to not only love God with our mind, we also need to feel that in our heart. We need to think biblically, but we need to respond Christ-like. So, as usual, we'd love to hear your thoughts on this. Perhaps you've been feeling the same way, but you know the drill. Thank you for tuning in. Like, share, and subscribe to the channel. Drop a comment below. Keep the conversation moving forward. We out.